Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Kenyon. Welcome to the Steve Kenyon Podcast. It is nice to have you with us. Got a fun show coming up. You'll hear from barrel racers Haley Kinzel and Halen Lyde. They're from Texas. They just split the Rodeo in Denver, the National Western Stock Show and Rodeo. Bareback rider Garrett Shadbolt, the champion in Denver, and like Haley Kinzel, red hot in Fort Worth. We will talk to Garrett. He's number one in the PRCA's world standings after winning over $12,000 in Denver. Our featured interview this week, Pete Carr of the Pete Carr Pro Rodeo Company, who is being inducted along with his two-time world champion bucking horse Dirty Jacket into the Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame later on this spring. We'll talk to Pete Carr coming up in just a few minutes. Let's start by taking you to Denver in the National Western Stock Show and Rodeo, where Garrett Shadbolt, 86.5 in the championship round, beat Bradley Miller, the young gun from Huntsville, Texas, by half a point, and won the National Western. Back-to-back titles for Shadbolt. I asked him if Denver is one of his favorite rodeos. Dumb question. Here's the answer.
Yeah, it's moving right up that list pretty fast.
I believe it. This year you were 86 in the semifinals on Saturday. Came back and were 86.5 on Sunday, if I remember right, a pair of Survey horses. Tell me about the Sunday afternoon championship round.
Yeah, so, the night before, a guy always kind of thinks about what he'd like to get on. And Dream Machine was really the one I wanted to get on. Although I knew I was 88 on Angel Eyes, or no, Ain't No Angel, earlier in the week.
Yeah.
And I was pretty sure they were going to have that horse out again. And I was kind of thinking, that horse could maybe be better, but I'd already been on him once that week. So, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, Dream Machine is what came to mind, and that's what I ended up drawing the next day. And she's an awesome, awesome horse. Really cool to get on.
I did a little bit of rough math. You won about $12,000. Talk about kickstarting your year. That's a good way to kickstart it, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of, just a lot of the momentum you pick up from Denver. But gosh, yeah, it's one thing to win the short round, but gosh, I won a pile out of there. I won the second round, or split the win in the second round, won my semifinals, and won my finals set too. And yeah, I mean the cards were dealt to me just right, but definitely got out of there with quite a chunk of change.
That 86 in the semifinals was one of your lowest scores in Denver, I think, isn't it? That's always a good thing, huh?
Yeah, I was like 81 on my first round. That was my low score, and I think I made a mistake in that ride, which cost me a little bit. But other than that, I think I kind of polished her up, and I guess personally, I was particularly happy with my ride on Ain't No Angel in the second round. I was 88, and that horse is quite a handful, really. Bucks hard, came around there, but the whole thing was just surreal, the right horses, and it worked out good.
For those of us who've never ridden a bucking horse for a living, when you're making an 88, 89 point ride, when you're flirting with 90, as the ride is going on, in the back of your mind, is there something that says, yeah, this is going to be really good, or do you have time to think about that?
It depends. Depends on the horse, depends on the ride. I definitely am thinking about that, Sometimes it can feel really bad, and you end up being a lot of points.
Yeah.
On Dream Machine, that horse ran for a few jumps, and my perception of time while I'm riding is somewhat warped, seems longer than it is. And to me, I was nervous that horse had ran for a long time. It felt like quite a few jumps, and I was like really trying to spur and get her going. And then when she started bucking there in that circle, I mean, I was thinking, you got to show off, dress this up, get that 24 point spur ride going.
Bareback rider Garrett Shadbolt missed the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo last year, broke his leg last summer, been to the NFR twice, 2021, 2022. He is number one right now in the world standings, and he continued that hot streak in Fort Worth. In bracket number 3, he was 88 to win the night on night number 1, 85.5 second on night number 2 of his bracket. That's $3,500. Shadbolt headed to the semifinals at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. There was a tie in the barrel race at the rodeo in Denver, and there was a lot said about setting arena records at the National Western. Well, they actually shrunk the barrel pattern just a little bit, and you give great horses a chance to run on a little bit smaller pattern, they're going to go fast. Halen Lyde from Texas, who'd like to get to her first National Finals rodeo, and Haley Kinzel from Texas, who is, of course, the 4-time world champion, split the rodeo in Denver, a pair of 1473s in the championship round. I talked to both Halen Lyde and Haley Kinzel. Haley broke a little bit of news. She talked about her great horse sister being hurt prior to last December's Wrangler National Finals rodeo.
No different, really. I think every time they reset an arena in a setup like that is temporary, it's going to change by probably a foot or at least a few inches every year. So not surprised it was different, but it felt the same as far as the coming from the left side, the way that the alley is to the left of the buck and shoot. So you are running almost across the arena to the first barrel, and your second barrel, if you run to the left, is about straight out in front of you. It is centered to the alley though, so it's crooked. Of course, the third barrel is kind of back there in the corner. Makes a great deal for me and Sis because she likes to run kind of straight off that third barrel. So running out is a really straight shot for us. So yeah, it feels funny when you're looking at it when you first get started. When you're in the pattern, everything feels pretty normal though.
I don't care if they shortened it just a little tiny bit. It sounds to me like several horses really fired, including your yellow mare.
They did. It was one of those things when the ground's good multiple times in a row and those horses get confident and then they just start running in there harder and burying up. And mine felt it in practice that morning and liked it. So when I asked her to go in that first round and she ran that 6, she was just ready to throw down. She was comfortable and confident in it. So that was exciting to see, even though even in the short round, they still ran 12 of us without a drag. It pretty well held. They do hand rake, which is a good gesture, and it helps a little, but it also kind of just fills in holes. So not a big change to me if they were to hand rake or not. Would rather see a tractor drag. I think that would improve it even more. I think you'd see records broken beyond what we were able to run this week on that set of a pattern. So that would be the only improvement I could see. But overall, it was so much better than in years past. Horses were really happy to be there.
You split the short round. It's a winner-take-all championship round, if you will, in Denver. You were 1473. Halen Lyde was 1473. So you just talked about 12 with hand rakes but not a tractor drag. Where were you and Halen on the ground? I talked to her earlier today, and I didn't get a chance to ask her that question. Were you top, bottom, middle? Where were you? Did it matter? Obviously, it didn't matter.
It didn't seem to make a huge difference, but it did feel heavy by the time I went. I was ninth out. I wouldn't have wanted to be 12th, personally. I don't think they had as great of a chance. I think Halen was 4th or 5th. She was in those first 5 because she was at least a few ahead of me. So, yeah, we were a little bit spread out. I do think it was fairly even up to that point.
Yeah. Sister sounds to me like she really felt good. The NFR did not go the way that any of us would have liked for it to go, and I'm sure the way that you wanted it to go. What did you do after the National Finals rodeo? Did you give her some time off? Did you take her to get looked at? What'd you do with her?
No, so actually she had 3 months off before the NFR that I did not plan on. The week before that deal in Sioux Falls, the big tour finale
Right.
thing in September, which I was planning to take to, she kicked the pipe fence and cracked her splint bone. And it didn't displace, which is great because we didn't have to remove it. But she was on stall rest from about end of September to November 1st. And about November 5th, I finally was able to get back on her. Up until that point, I was hand walking her once a day. And by that point, we knew that the bone was stable. It wasn't going to displace, so we weren't going to cause a bigger problem. But I've said it before, she gets fat. And by fat, I mean soft. She doesn't do well with time off. I've never given her time off. Never been off her back more than maybe a week
Yeah.
after the finals. So that it was pretty extreme. And I felt like I had her fit to make runs in Vegas, but not ready to win. And it's hard to say because you go in, I knew my horse was happy. I knew she was sound. I will say the first round was like a kiss of death for us. That was when the ground wasn't so great. Understandably so. It takes them a while to settle it in. And normally I don't think it would have bothered her, but she slipped going into the first barrel and she nearly hit her butt on the ground that first round. And it's like her confidence was kind of shot. You know, that was the first run we'd made in solid 3+ months. And I couldn't make a run beforehand. She didn't feel comfortable necessarily to go on after that. I mean, she did better and better and better, and by the end was great. Like it was like by round 10, she was ready for 10 more because I felt like one, physically she was finally working out her kinks, but two, just mentally she was confident. Like, oh, my leg's gonna hold me and the ground's gonna hold me, and oh, I know how to turn on this. So after the NFR, to answer your question, I didn't get off her at all. I didn't get on her for the first couple days I got home because I was sick. I was really sick. But since she had had so much time off in the fall, and because I knew she was sound and just needed to get in chiseled up fighting shape, I got back on her way sooner run wise than I normally do. Usually I would wait till Fort Worth if we've made 10 runs in Vegas, but because we only made 8, thanks to Spatch taking care of us for 2 of those rounds,
Yeah.
and because I knew she was fresh and needing some runs, I entered Odessa and Denver on her. So that's kind of why I even went there. She was ready to go to work. I wish she was that ready back around December 1st, but we don't get to control those.
Haley Kinzel said she had not been to Denver as part of her regular routine. Halen lied, with whom she split the barrel race in Denver, said this was her first trip to Denver. So Halen's batting 1,000. She split the short round with Haley with a time of 14:73. We talked to Halen about her great horse called Keeper.
It's my first trip to Denver, so clean slate.
Wow. So you're batting 1,000.
Yeah, I like it.
What's the setup like in Denver? There was a lot of discussion about they set new arena records, but they also shortened the pattern a little bit. So yeah, they were the fastest times run in Denver. But what's the setup like in there? What's running in the Denver Coliseum like?
It's a little bit different because of the way the alley is set. The arena on TV, I felt like it looked normal, and then I got there and saw that it's off center, but it's centered to the alley, so it doesn't make it as challenging as I thought it could be. It the alley is real short and wide, so I don't know. You could see it on the Cowboy channel, but Keeper came from way back because holding him all the way up there was not working. but it's not a bad setup. But I did go in for practice every day.
Um, how much time do you get to go in at rodeos like that? And what? Tell me about rodeos like that one. This time of year is different because you're not going from rodeo to rodeo. You make runs in Denver over a week or 10-day period. What's all that like for a contestant?
I was lucky, and for myself, anyways. And I asked for and I drew up on Friday, so I made my 2 runs on Friday, and then qualified back to Saturday and then Sunday. So I wasn't there a super long time, and I also didn't have to go and then come back home. The fact that they offer practice, I absolutely love and try to
Right.
always take advantage of. It's not that way at every rodeo, but if you can get your horse in the arena, it always helps me to feel the ground and have an idea about where the barrels are.
I send a lot of messages out to barrel racers when I'm announcing a rodeo, just asking them to tell me about their horses and a little bit about themselves. And I found one from you last year at the end of July or beginning of August. We were in Castle Rock, Colorado together, and your note about your horse was, "We call him Keeper because when my husband started him as a 2-year-old, he told me he was a keeper. He's 11 this year." Apparently, your husband was right.
He was right, and now he's 12. Yeah, he's just been phenomenal from the start. Always confident, way more confident than I am, and so we just ride on that.
Tell me about his bloodlines and his breeding and all that.
He's out of a mare that I rodeoed on a little bit in high school and then in college, and she got hurt. She was a Jet Smooth and Threos mare, and then he's by JL Dash to Heaven.
Oh, well, there you go. National Finals Rodeo Stallion. We've
Yes.
I used to. Jed Little was one of my sponsors for a long time. I love JL Dash to Heaven. That horse is special.
Absolutely. And I think he's changed the barrel racing industry. I mean, he just makes amazing babies. Those horses are all great.
Barrel racer Halen lied. She split the rodeo in Denver with Haley Kinzel. She'll be in Fort Worth this weekend. You can find the complete video of all those interviews if you go to our 8 Seconds Media YouTube channel. Just go to 8secondsmedia.com and you can. We'll take you right there. Just click on the media link and we'll take you right there, and you can watch everything that Garrett and Haley and Halen all had to say. Our featured interview of the week is with Pete Carr of Pete Carr Pro Rodeos. Pete Carr has been inducted into the Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame, and it's kind of a special year for him because that induction also includes his great horse, Dirty Jacket, the two-time Bareback Horse of the Year in the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. Pete Carr joins us on the other side of this timeout. Thank you for joining us for the Steve Kenyon Podcast.
Hey y'all, this is Cody Johnson. When I was starting out in music, most every radio station and venue I went to told me no. At that point, you got two options: tuck tail and quit, or buckle down and fight. Well, I'm a fighter, not a quitter. And that's why I wear Wrangler jeans and shirts. Their toughness and style are legendary. They're an iconic symbol of the West, and there's no quit in them either. Life's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And if I'm gonna enjoy the ride, I'm riding in Wrangler. Wrangler, long live Cowboys.
New styles join our time-tested Justin Bent Rail collection. Like the rugged men and women who wear them, these boots stand for quality, integrity, tradition, and hard work. Straight from our legendary El Paso factory, our expert bootmakers build these boots with features that would make even the earliest cowboys proud. Outfit yourself today with a Bent Rail collection by Justin.
There's no pretending to being a cowboy. Either you are or you aren't. Which is why everything we do as a company improves or preserves this way of life. The romance, the honesty, the toughness, the craft. More cowboys, please. America could use them. Resist all. We live it every
Steve Kenyon Podcast is being presented by Unbeatable Feeds. Find a location near you online at unbeatablefeeds.com, and by M2 Ranch Jerky, coming this spring to a store near you. Thank you for joining us. Pete Carr of Pete Carr Pro Rodeo Company has been nominated multiple times as PRCA Stock Contractor of the Year, has owned Bucking Horses of the Year, horses like Dirty Jacket. This year his bull Bayou Bengal was the Bucking Bull of the Year in the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. Pete has just been notified that he is going to be inducted later this year in the Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame. It's kind of a big deal to him because he's going into that Hall of Fame, and so is Dirty Jacket. Pete Carr is our featured interview on the Steve Kenyon Podcast. It's always a pleasure. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thanks for having me this morning.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. The Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame has announced its class of inductees, and Pete Carr is one of those inductees. The bio that the Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame printed: after he quit riding bucking horses, Pete Carr still had an itch for rodeo, scratching it by establishing Pete Carr Pro Rodeo in 2005. Since then, he's had dozens of animals selected to the NFR, 4 of which have been Bareback Horse of the Year, Real Deal, Big Tex, Deuce's Night, and Dirty Jacket twice. Has had on multiple occasions the most NFR stock, and is a 13-time nominee for the PRCA Stock Contractor of the Year award. Pete, that bio started by saying you scratch your itch for rodeo by starting a stock contracting company. That itch got pretty well scratched, I think, didn't it?
Well, I grew up, wanting to rodeo and wanting to be a cowboy and trying to go to rodeos and all that type of stuff. So you naturally gravitate towards that when you kind of slow down, because all your relationships, everybody you've ever met, everything you're used to doing, traveling, going to other towns, going out. You don't really know anybody around your town where you live because you're always
Yeah,
gone.
I
So
understand that. Yeah.
it was natural for me to want to stay involved in rodeo because that's where all my closest friends in the world were. So, that was the only thing I could think of. I wasn't, talented enough to do anything else. So, the rodeo company side was very appealing to me at that point.
You're in the building business. You do a lot of commercial construction, right? Am I right in saying that?
We do. We do. We're a commercial general contractor. We've been in business almost 30 years in Dallas Fort Worth area and do projects all over the United States.
So you actually started that business while you were still competing.
I was shutting it down. I could see the end. I was getting to where I was going to the Saturday night rodeos, and it was coming to an end. And I was in my, early 30s, probably 32, 33 range. So I'd had enough injuries, and it was time to kind of start focusing on the next chapter.
Pete, I'm always interested in history, and I've never really asked you a lot about this, but how did you start your business? And I'm asking how did you start Pete Carr Pro Rodeos in terms of, did you have some mares and some stallions and start raising horses? Did you go out and buy a bunch of horses? What impact did that first group of horses have on your business today?
Well, several questions there.
Yeah, that's a lot of questions. Sorry, I usually try to limit it to one at a shot. I think I just threw three at you, but go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So the first, I started buying horses and bulls as I was in early years of my construction company to help Scotty Lovelace. He had a rodeo company, Classic Pro Rodeo. We were buddies. We rodeoed together. So I was kind of the guy that would go get the NFR animals or buy the high dollar animals because he was just starting out with his company. He didn't have a whole lot of money. And so it worked. Fast forward from there, we had the opportunity to buy the Harper Morgan Rodeo Company. So we did that. And I got Teddy Bear and a couple other animals of James's. He had 4 animals go to NFR, and I got those. And me and Scotty went out there, met with James, bought the company, got Stace involved. So it was the 3 of us, and we called it Harper, Morgan, and Carr for a couple of years. And so I kept buying, all that stuff during the process. And then, eventually when you get 3 guys that are, A+ personalities, everybody wants to go their different direction. And that's what happened. And then I really started accelerating. I had to accelerate the growth process quickly to kind of keep up to get enough animals to actually put on an entire rodeo by myself, because it was us 3 combining our animals at first. So it's pretty easy to light it up with all 3 of our best stuff. But then when when you're by yourself, it obviously dilutes a little bit of your steam. So kind of going forward, I ended up from there buying a card from the PRCA, starting Carr Pro Rodeo. Then I quickly bought the Walls, Terry Walls' card and company. And then, I ended up buying Classic Pro Rodeo from Scotty after that. So I just, through, acquisitions and, just buying and raising animals, we grew exponentially over, course of 10 years.
I've always wondered, from a stock contractor perspective, is it different building a horse herd than it is building a bull herd? There are a lot of guys that, have taken on partners where one side of the company is the horse guy and the other side of the company is the bull guy. You had the bull of the year last year, Bayou Bengal, your first ever bucking bull of the year. Is building the horse herd different than the bull herd?
It's totally different. And, it's kind of whatever your passion is. My passion was horses at first. I never really rode bulls. I got on a couple bulls just because I was broke for mount money. But, I wasn't really a bull guy. I think one time uh, yeah, I went to a sale and bought maybe 6 or 7 bulls at a sale in Fort Worth at Mr. Smith's, and I had no business even. I didn't even know what I was buying
Hmm.
when I started, but so it's totally different. The horse herd, you have to have a lot of patience because it's long term. It takes you a long time to kind of get the horses climatized, acclimated, get them big enough, figure out the event they're in. There's a lot of things with the horses that takes a long time, and they last a long time. Bulls are a little more instant gratification. You buy them when they're 3 or 4 year olds. You put them on the truck. They're ready to go. They've got really their premium lifespan is in that 4 to 6 years. So it happens all pretty quick, and you have to always be upgrading and moving them out and in. And it's a constant as opposed to the horse herd. You kind of get your plan, you get them all bred, or you get them all bought, and you have a plan, and you have to wait several years to
Yeah.
kind of see if it all works out. So two different paths.
The other thing, though, about horses is that they can be, geez, how long has Big Tex bucked? I mean, that horse was the horse of the year in 2010. Um,
Uh,
you,
yeah,
you, you,
he's 24 years old. Um, so yeah, he's been going a while, and he still bucks great today. We're probably going to retire him in San Angelo this year, just because he doesn't owe me anything and he's done his job. They didn't take him to the finals this year, which they probably there's a couple rounds in there in the one or the two pins. They wish they had him, um, but he's been a great horse, bucked for a long time. And that's the deal. If you take care of these horses, and it's like treads on a tire. Every time you buck them, one of your treads come off. So they only have so much tread. They only have so much life. So you have to. That's why our horses only work about a minute a year. We have matrix and spreadsheets that we look at on all the different rodeos, which animals are going where. And it's very strategic on when we buck them, how long they're off, how much time they rest, because we they're so precious. When you do get an animal that is that special, you surely want to make sure they last.
yeah. The biggest rodeos that you have a chance to go to where you bring out all those superstars, does your blood still get pumping a little bit when you know that you've got a lineup of some of those horses that have been NFR selected, that have been Horse of the Year award winners? I know as a fan, I do. When I see the kind of livestock that you can bring to a rodeo showing up in the bucking chutes, that's when I really get excited a lot of times about a rodeo.
I get excited at any rodeo now, but just like we had our rodeo, a lot of circuit guys, a lot of young guys. It was a 2 day rodeo first week of January, and we had 20 some bareback riders and 30 some
Hmm.
bronc riders, and we took a set of young horses that never really even been anywhere. We bucked them, and we've kind of eased them around and trained on them. But we didn't get one re-ride the whole weekend. Everything bucked great. The guys enjoyed it. They were perfect for that caliber of contestants. So I get excited about the different levels and the depth that our program has become because of all the breeding and the acquisitions and just the time in the program that you don't have the first 5 years you're in the business. You're scrambling, just trying to buy something at a sale. And when you buy it, you pretty much has to go on the truck and, because you don't have anything else. So it's nice to have depth, and we have a lot of depth. And that's, yeah, hats off to Billy and Billy Jones, the ranch manager and the operation manager, and all his take care of the livestock day in and day out. And they do a great job feeding them with supplements and everything else. And yeah, when they show up, they look good and they're ready to roll.
You just kind of segued into a question I know I was going to ask you at some point, which is I've done a couple of interviews with you in your life the time that we've known each other, Pete, where I've asked you about the people around you, and you've wanted to go out of your way to talk about your crew. You just mentioned Billy Jones, but when you put on a rodeo, a lot of times you can bring the entire staff, the entire bunch with you. You know you're surrounded by people you're comfortable with. Talk about the people who have been around you, I think, for a long time in most cases.
Yeah, we arguably, in my opinion, we have the best crew in rodeo. So, with Billy, he's the operation manager. He handles everything from the ground up at the ranch. He sorts all the animals. He puts a stock list together. He's strategizing with me on where to buck things and when to buck things and how to set pins. And he's done it so much now. He's doing a great job doing that. When we get to the rodeo, we have the Gwatneys. So I got Sandy Secretary, who's been Secretary of the Year. I got John Gwatney, who's been, a 77-time, NFR timed event champ, steer roping champ. Anything you can put on a rodeo title, John Gwatney's probably has it. So he's the arena boss. He runs everything. He oversees the time event in. He runs the bucket shoots. He keeps our production tight. He knows production. He's the VP at the NFR every year. He's an assistant to the guys in charge, and so he's a great guy to have. Then we just roll down from there. We have guys like our bullfighters, Clay Hager and Bryce Reed, who've been with us forever and ever, so they know the drill. Justin Gwatney, John Cribbs. We just have Ashton Jones has come up and really become a key part of our team, and he took Bulls the other night to the Bulls night out in Fort Worth for 2 nights and flanked all the Bulls, took them up there. So we've really done a lot of cross training and growing of our team too, as well. We're becoming such a solid whole crew that we can do several rodeos. We can do several things. Our operation has gotten to a point to where we have to have those key people. And right now, I feel like, for the last 5-7 years, we've had the best crew in the business, bar none. Put them up against anybody in the business. There's a lot of great companies out there, but my people know we use the same people every rodeo. They know their job. They know their position. I know their skill set. I know what they can handle and not handle. They know our committees. Our committees know them. It just makes for a seamless operation.
You mentioned rodeo committees, Pete, and I asked you a lot of questions about building a herd of livestock, which you've done a lot with, and you spent a lot of money. And I want to ask you about a couple of those kinds of things that you've done in recent years in a minute. But it occurs to me that the other part of building a stock contracting company is getting people to hire you to bring those great horses and bulls to town. And especially in the early years, I mean, you're so established now, places like Stephenville and San Angelo and taking stock to Houston and some of the other great rodeos you go to. You just mentioned the bull riding in Fort Worth last week. What was that like for you to get started, to get people to give you a chance with so many great stock contracting firms out there?
Well, it's like anything else when you start. You gotta learn to crawl, then you learn to walk, and then you start, doing short marathons, and then long marathons. But it's the same thing. When you're just getting started, you're just lucky to take a gooseneck load of animals somewhere that somebody will even give you an opportunity to bring them. And as you grow and progress and people get to know you and, they know what kind of animals you have and it just grows from there. But it's just time. The one thing the rodeo industry has taught me is patience and it's time. You just have to be patient. And I'm not a very patient person.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult for me on the front end of this to because I was pretty hard charging, and I don't wait for my ship to come in. I swim out to it kind of guy. So yeah, it's tough to kind of let it let it develop.
You made a major investment in a herd of horses. Was it 2 years ago at the NFR? You got together with High Low Pro Rodeo Company, bought several of their animals. I think High Low was the only contractor involved a little bit, but why do, that speaks to, I guess, really wanting to try to continue to make the herd better.
Yeah, there's an opportunity there for sure for me. I had 10 horses at the National Falls Rodeo. There was a little bit more behind the scenes going on there. The gentleman that owned Hilo at the time, he was wanting to get out. Dustin was wanting to buy it. There was a lot going on, but the end result was we ended up with their 10 NFR horses, and it enabled the gentleman Van to exit industry, and it worked for him, and it helped also Dustin to step up and become the owner of his company. So it was there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that nobody really understood at the time, which I don't think they'd have any. I mean, I think it's all common knowledge now, but so end result is there was an opportunity for me to have 10 NFR animals that have gone back, that have half of them are mares. We've already had colts out of them, Tiger Warrior colts that Calgary bred to them. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. Looking in the future, looking in the present, trying to take another step, credibility wise, and get to that top notch. So that's what I'm always striving for. Just want to be better.
Yeah.
Just can't, just not going to be complacent and sit around and just, let everything get old and tarnish. Got to keep it new, got to keep it fresh, and got to keep improving.
You and I have a very close common friend in Jeff Metters, and I sent Jeff a note this morning. I said, I'm going to talk to Pete Carr today, and he said, keep this in mind when you talk to Pete. He's a perfectionist. Is that the way you think of yourself?
Yeah, I am. I'm my biggest critic, and I'm hard on myself, and I want everything perfect, and nothing's ever. Yeah, so that's just me, and I know it, and the people that work for me know it. I've gotten better over the years. I've matured. I've gotten wiser, figured out how to handle it better and deal with it. But trying to smell a little bit of the roses as I go down the road.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to do in this business. I have criticized myself a lot all the years that I've been announcing and driving from town to town and doing all those things. And I look back on it now and I think to myself, I wish you would have stopped a little bit more in a couple of those wide spots in the road and taken a look around. It is tough to stop and smell the roses sometimes in this business, I think.
It is. And fortunately, I'm at a place now where with the crew that I mentioned and the team that has surrounded me, and it's given me the opportunity to do a little of that. So I appreciate them. I appreciate everything they do for me. If it wasn't for them, I'd be out there driving a truck and sorting myself and trying to get there.
Yeah. Okay, so one more note from Metters. Leave it to Jeff to find the Oklahoma State University connection somewhere. His stepdaughter is going to OSU. Ask him about how she's killing it in barrel racing and rodeo.
Well, she's 17. She's had a lot of success, and so we're extremely proud of her. She is going to OSU. She wants to be a vet. She's smart, and she's driven. So there's no doubt that she will do well there in both on the rodeo team and in school.
Yeah. Let me ask you, before I let you go, Pete, can I ask you your favorite kid question? Are there of all the animals you've had, I I think I've said this publicly. I love to watch Dirty Jacket buck. The way that horse, that big, rare out of the bucking chutes, and some of the things that horse has accomplished, I love watching that horse buck. Are there one or two that you look at and you just want to run to the fence and watch them every time?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, of course, when I started, of course, Riverboat Annie was the one that you'd run up and watch. And then, Deuce's Night come along, and then Dirty Jacket come along, and of course, Big Tex has been phenomenal all through the years. So there's always kind of a star, it just, fortunately for me, there's a lot of them and they keep rotating. And that's what keeps us fresh and current.
Yeah.
But no, a lot of great animals. We've been blessed with time in the business and stumbling. I bought Dirty Jacket when Dirty Jacket was a 2-year-old, and I watched the horse buck with a dummy on it at Jim Zinser's ranch. And that day, I bought Dirty Jacket, Out of Sight, Deuce's Night, and yeah, they're three world champions. And if you put the value of everything I spent for what I spent, so things have changed a lot in the animal flesh industry. So
yeah.
Things are a little bit more spendier, and which is good. We're getting money into the industry, and that comes a lot from everything that's going on out there, and a lot of great things are moving in our industry in the right direction. So a lot of good interest, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
There was a small connectivity issue at a horrible time there, Pete, when you were talking about the value of those 3 horses. Repeat what you said there, because we didn't really get to hear what you were talking about in terms of those horses. To me, would be priceless. And you were talking about the value of them at that moment. We had to drop it.
Yeah, and the funny thing, and they were all 2-3-year-olds, and they all had dummy colts on them, and or dummies on those colts, and the price that I paid for all of them, I probably couldn't even put a set of tires on my car for now. So yeah, everything's changed quite a bit in the horse industry. If you've been to the NFR buck and horse sale at South Point, you can spend a lot on a young horse.
Yeah. Pete Carr is joining us. Pete, before I let you go, you got a phone call recently, I'm not sure when, from the Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame saying, clear your calendar. We got a day we want you to come join us in Fort Worth, and we'd like to put you in this hall. What was your reaction to that phone call?
I was pretty blown away. I was, that's just not something, I'm still, I still feel like I'm 40, even though I'm, my birthday, I'll be 62 next week.
You're just a kid.
I still feel super young, so I don't feel, I can remember when my mom told me she was 40 and I thought she was old, and I was like 15 or whatever. It just doesn't really, you don't expect any of that when you start doing what you do, whatever industry you're in. And so to get that call was extremely humbling, and I was honored to have been selected, more so for Dirty Jacket, because Dirty Jacket got inducted. He's being inducted too in the horse category or the animal category. So I was kind of more excited about him than me. But that's going to be a very, very special day to get up there and accept that induction for him and for me. So I thank everybody that thought of us and voted for us, and I appreciate everything that we get. And I personally give all my glory to God for everything that's happened to me. There's just no way I should even be where I'm at today. So it's just a testament to how good our God is.
Yeah, that's a great way to wrap this up. You've got a busy schedule coming up, I'm sure.
Yeah, we do. We did the San Antonio qualifier. We had our first rodeo, and then we're in Fort Worth last week. We're in Fort Worth last night. We're in Fort Worth tonight, and we just keep rolling and on to. We've got Bay City and a couple other rodeos here in Texas. Then we head off for 3 weeks to San Angelo, and then we really don't stop till we get done with Oakley after the 4th.
Yeah. Pete Carr Pro Rodeos, going to be busy. You'll see his animals all over the place, and you'll see a bunch of them in December at the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. Pete, congratulations on the Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame. There's a part of me that thinks that won't be the last time you get one of those phone calls. I just have this funny feeling that there might be a couple more of those between the great animals and the success you've had. I've got a funny feeling you might get a phone call or two more like that in your life before it's done. And I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you to Pete Carr. Always a pleasure. The Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame induction, rodeo reunion, and induction ceremonies, April 25th through 27th, and that will take place in Fort Worth, Texas. Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame.com is the website. You can check us out at 8secondsmedia.com. Thank you for listening to the Steve Kenyon Podcast, brought to you by Wrangler, by the Justin Boot Company, by Resistol, by Prefert, by the Grandview at Las Vegas, by M2 Ranch Jerky, and by our good friends at Unbeatable Feeds. Check out the Unbeatable Feeds website for a location near you. We'll do it all over again next week. By the way, if you're in Northern California, I'm headed to Red Bluff for the bull and gelding sale this weekend. Big bull riding on Saturday night that'll wrap up the bull and gelding sale. We'll share a lot about that on our 8 Seconds Media Facebook page. God bless everybody. I'm Steve Kenyon. Thanks for listening.